My wife lied about our son and hid that he was from her ex. Now she is calling me a traitor. I never thought I'd be the guy posting something like this. My life felt so normal, even happy. I had a beautiful wife, Emma, and an 8-year-old son who I thought was my entire world. But now I'm sitting here questioning everything I thought I knew about my family and my marriage 2 weeks ago. I found out my son isn't biologically mine, and it's not even the fact itself that's destroying me. It's the lies behind it. Let me back up and explain how this all started. For my birthday last month, my brother gave me one of those DNA test kits. He thought it would be fun, and honestly, so did I. My family's always been into genealogy. So I figured it'd be cool to learn more about my ancestry. I decided to get one for my son, too, a fun little father-son bonding activity. We'd compare results, maybe find out some quirky facts about our heritage. A couple of weeks later, the results came in, and at first, I didn't even notice anything weird. I was too busy scrolling through my own family history. It wasn't until I went to look at my son's results that I noticed something off. There was no match between us. At first, I thought it was just a glitch in the system. These things aren't 100% accurate. Right. But the more I looked, the more I realized it wasn't just some technical error. There was 0 shared DNA between us. 0. I was in complete disbelief. I sat there staring at the screen, my mind racing. Maybe they'd mixed up the samples. Maybe there was a mistake during the testing process. I wanted to believe anything but the obvious explanation, because if this was true, if this was real, it meant my son wasn't biologically mine. I didn't tell my wife right away. I didn't know how to bring it up. For 2 days, I kept it to myself, trying to figure out what the hell I was supposed to do. But every time I looked at my son, I felt this knot in my stomach. How could I look him in the eye and pretend nothing had changed when my whole world was crumbling inside? Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. One night after we'd put our son to bed, I sat Emma down and told her about the DNA test. I tried to keep it calm and rational, but my voice cracked. When I told her the results didn't make sense, I expected her to be as shocked as I was. I expected her to say, "That's crazy. Let's figure this out." But she didn't at first. She just stared at me. Then she let out this nervous laugh like she was trying to play it off. She said something about how those tests aren't always accurate, and maybe I shouldn't take it so seriously, but I wasn't buying it. Her reaction felt off, like she was scrambling to come up with an explanation, but couldn't quite find the words. So I pressed her. I told her this wasn't something we could just shrug off. I asked her point blank, "Is there something you're not telling me?" That's when she broke. She started crying. Full-on sobbing, and I felt my stomach drop. She kept saying, "I didn't know how to tell you, and I was scared you'd leave me." It took her almost 10 minutes to get the words out, but when she finally did, it felt like the floor had been ripped out from under me. She told me, "Our son isn't mine. He's her ex-boyfriend's." I didn't even know what to say. My head was spinning. I asked her when this happened, how this happened, why she never told me. She explained that when we first started dating. She and her ex had only been broken up for a couple of months. She found out she was pregnant right after we'd started getting serious, and instead of telling me the truth, she made the decision to pass the baby off as mine. Her exact words were, "I knew you'd make a better dad than he ever would. I didn't want to lose you." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. She lied to me for 8 years. She let me believe this child was mine. She let me build my life around him, around us, without ever giving me the choice to know the truth. And what about our son? He has no idea. He spent his entire life thinking I'm his dad. I felt sick. I still feel sick. Part of me wanted to scream at her, but another part just felt completely numb. I walked out of the room without saying a word and spent the rest of the night sitting in my car trying to process everything. Over the past 2 weeks, I've been going through every possible emotion: anger, sadness, betrayal. I keep replaying moments from the past 8 years in my head, wondering if there were signs I missed. Did she ever slip up? Did she ever feel guilty? And what am I supposed to do now? The thing is, I love my son. He might not be my blood, but he's still my son in every way that matters. I was there when he took his first steps. I was there when he said his first word. I taught him how to ride a bike. I've been to every school, play every soccer game. He's my little boy. But now I can't stop wondering, does that change anything? Should it? And then there's Emma. I don't know if I can ever look at her the same way again. She lied to me about something so fundamental, something that affects the very foundation of our family. How do you come back from that? Can you come back from that? I haven't told anyone yet. Not my friends, not my family. I feel like if I say it out loud, it makes it real, and I'm not ready for that. I don't even know if I should tell my son should he know. Does he deserve to know? Or would it just hurt him more than it helps? The worst part is, this might just be the tip of the iceberg. Something about the way Emma reacted when I confronted her makes me think there's more. She's not telling me, but I don't even know if I'm ready to dig any deeper right now. I'm just trying to figure out what to do next. Update I. If you read my last post, I recently found out my 8-year-old son isn't biologically mine. My wife Emma admitted she'd lied to me for 8 years, letting me believe he was my son, while knowing he was actually her ex's. I've been dealing with every emotion imaginable since then: shock, betrayal, sadness. But just when I thought I couldn't feel more hurt, Emma did something I never expected. She started trying to turn my son against me. It's like she realized she couldn't manipulate me anymore, so she shifted her focus to our son, and the worst part is it's working. Let me back up a bit after Emma admitted the truth. We had a few days where we barely spoke to each other. Every conversation turned into a fight, and honestly, I wasn't sure how to even be around her anymore. But I tried my best to keep things normal for my son. He had no idea what was going on, and I didn't want to drag him into it. I thought at the very least we could agree on protecting him from the fallout, but I was wrong. It started small, almost subtle enough that I didn't notice at first. She'd make little comments when our son was around. Things like, "Your dad's been so grumpy lately," or, "I guess your dad doesn't have time to play with you right now." I didn't think much of it at first because, well, I was grumpy. I mean, how could I not be? But then it escalated. One night I was helping my son with his homework, when he suddenly turned to me and said, "Mom says you're mad at me because I'm bad." I froze. I didn't even know how to respond to that. I asked him what he meant, and he said, "She told me you don't like me anymore because I'm not good enough." I could feel my chest tighten as he said those words. I reassured him that wasn't true, that I loved him more than anything in the world, but he just shrugged and said, "That's not what Mom said." I was furious. I confronted Emma as soon as he went to bed, and she acted completely innocent. I didn't say that. She said, her voice dripping with fake concern. Maybe he misunderstood me, but it kept happening. Over the next few days, my son started acting distant around me. He'd pull away when I tried to hug him, and he stopped asking me to play with him like he usually did. When I tried to talk to him, he'd just give me these short one-word answers, like he didn't trust me anymore. Then one day, I overheard Emma talking to him in his room. She didn't know I was standing outside the door listening. She was saying things like, "Sometimes dads get mad when kids aren't perfect, and it's okay if your dad doesn't love you as much as he used to. I'll always love you, no matter what." I felt like I was going to explode. How could she say something like that to an 8-year-old? She was planting these ideas in his head, making him think I didn't love him, and for what to punish me for finding out the truth to protect herself. When I confronted her about it, she finally dropped the act. She didn't deny it this time. Instead, she doubled down. "You're the one who's ruining everything," she said. "You're the one who's obsessed with this DNA stuff. Do you think he'd be better off knowing the truth? You're going to destroy him." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. She was acting like she was the victim, like I was the bad guy for wanting honesty. I told her that what she was doing was manipulative and cruel. But she just laughed. "You don't understand." She said, "You don't know what it's like to be a mother. I'm doing what's best for him." At this point, I realized I needed to protect my son, not just from the truth, but from her. I started being more careful about how I interacted with him, making sure he knew I loved him no matter what. I told him every day how proud I was of him, how lucky I was to be his dad. I also started documenting everything Emma said and did. I started recording our arguments, saving texts, and keeping notes about the things she said to our son. I didn't know what I was going to do with all of it yet, but I figured if this turned into a custody battle, I'd need proof of what she was doing. But then things took an even darker turn. One day my son came home from school looking upset. I asked him what was wrong, and at first he didn't want to tell me. But after some coaxing, he said, "Mom said, you don't want to be my dad anymore." I asked him why he thought that. And she said, "You're mad because I'm not really your son. Is that true?" I swear I almost started crying right there. I told him, "Listen to me. You are my son. You'll always be my son. Nothing in the world could ever change that." I hugged him as tightly as I could, and for a moment he seemed to believe me, but the damage was done. Emma had crossed a line I didn't even know existed. She was using the one thing I was most afraid of, my son finding out the truth and twisting it to turn him against me. And the thing is, I don't even think she cared about how it was affecting him. She was so focused on hurting me that she didn't realize or didn't care that she was hurting him too. I don't know what to do anymore. Part of me wants to fight her with everything. I've got to expose her lies and make sure my son knows the truth. But another part of me is terrified of what that truth might do to him. He's only 8 years old. He doesn't deserve to be caught in the middle of this mess. Final update after everything Emma did lying to me, manipulating our son. I realized I couldn't just sit back and let her control the narrative. I started documenting everything like I mentioned in my last post, but I also started doing my own digging. Something about her reaction to the DNA test kept nagging at me. She'd been so defensive, so angry, like she was trying to protect something bigger than just the lie she told me. I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to the story, so I did something I never thought I'd do. I hired a private investigator. At first, I felt guilty even considering it. This was the woman I'd loved for over a decade, the mother of my child, or at least the child I'd raised as my own. But after everything she'd done, I knew I couldn't trust her, and I had to know the truth, not just for me, but for my son. The investigator started digging into Emma's past, specifically around the time we started dating. I told him about her ex Daniel, who she admitted was my son's biological father. I wanted to know if he was still in the picture. If she'd been in contact with him all these years, part of me hoped that finding out more about him might help me figure out what to do next. What the investigator found blew my mind first. He confirmed that Emma had been in contact with Daniel. She'd been messaging him for years, sending him pictures of our son, updating him on his milestones. But here's the kicker. Daniel had no idea he was the father. Emma never told him. In every message, she referred to our son as my boy and acted like Daniel was just some old friend she was catching up with. I couldn't wrap my head around it. Why would she stay in touch with him sharing these intimate details about our son, but never tell him the truth? And then I started wondering, was she planning to tell him eventually? Was she keeping him on the sidelines as some kind of backup plan? But that wasn't even the biggest bombshell. The investigator found something else, something Emma had never told me. Before Emma and I started dating, she and Daniel had been married. Not just dating, married. It was a short-lived marriage, only about a year, but they'd been together long enough for it to matter. She never once mentioned this to me. Not in all the years we'd been together. I felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. When I heard that, think about it. She let me believe Daniel was just some random ex-boyfriend from her past. She conveniently left out the part where he was actually her ex-husband. But wait, It gets worse. The reason their marriage ended was because Emma cheated on him. The investigator found court records showing that Daniel filed for an annulment citing infidelity. I couldn't believe it. I mean, I thought I knew her. I thought I understood who she was. But this was a side of her I never imagined. When I confronted her about everything, she completely lost it. She called me a traitor for digging into her past, for dragging Daniel into this. She said I was trying to ruin her life and destroy our family. But here's the thing. I wasn't trying to ruin anything. I just wanted the truth. After all the lies she told me, how could I not? I told her I knew about her marriage to Daniel. I told her I knew she'd been in contact with him, that she'd been sending him pictures of our son, and then I asked her the question that had been eating away at me. Why didn't you ever tell him he was the father? Her answer, because I didn't want him to take my son away from me. I was stunned. She wasn't protecting me. She wasn't even protecting our son. She was protecting herself. She wanted to control the situation to make sure no one else had a say in what happened to our son. Not me, not Daniel, no one. At that point, I realized I couldn't trust her at all. Every word out of her mouth felt like another lie, another attempt to manipulate me. So I made a decision. I reached out to Daniel. It wasn't an easy decision. I went back and forth on it for days, wondering if I was making a huge mistake. But in the end, I felt like he deserved to know the truth. I couldn't keep this secret for Emma, not when it involved something as important as his own child. When I met Daniel, he was shocked. He had no idea Emma had been lying to him all these years. He said he always wondered why she cut him out of her life so abruptly, but he never imagined it was because she was hiding a child. He was furious, but not at me, at her. Now Daniel wants to be part of his son's life, and honestly, I think that's a good thing. My son deserves to know where he comes from, and Daniel deserves a chance to be a father, but I know this is going to turn my world upside down even more. Emma, of course, is livid. She's calling me a traitor, saying I've ruined everything, but you know what? I don't care anymore. She lied to me. She lied to Daniel, and she lied to our son. She's been trying to control everything for years, and now it's all falling apart. I'm still figuring out what comes next. I've already talked to a lawyer about custody, and I'm prepared to fight for my son if it comes to that, because no matter what, I'm not walking away from him. He's my son, blood or not, and I'll do whatever it takes to protect him.